Corporal Terry Turner's hands closed around the Packled's neck, snapping it with a satisfying crack. The human had lived up to his species' deadly reputation, but the fight was far from over. Biological anomaly detected, human life sign confirmed. The robotic voice of the Pakled scanner drone echoed through the bioluminescent jungle. Terry ducked behind a massive tree trunk, his breaths heavy and labored. Blood leaked from a gash on his forehead, mixing with the mud and grime caked on his face. His left arm hung limp at his side, the bone shattered from the force of the crash. 3 days ago, Terry had been on a routine recon mission, scouting the Pakled-controlled planet of Gozk 4. But now, he found himself stranded deep in hostile territory, the sole survivor of a downed ship. With no way to call for help and a ruthless enemy hot on his trail, Terry knew his odds of survival were slim. He thought back to the events that led him here. The Pakleds, a technologically advanced species, had become increasingly aggressive in their expansion efforts. For months, they had been monitoring human activity in their star system, viewing the less advanced humans as a potential threat. When a human recon ship was detected entering Pakled airspace, the order was given to shoot it down. Terry had barely made it out of the burning wreckage alive. His left arm was badly injured, and his comms equipment was damaged beyond repair. But the hits kept coming. It wasn't long before the Pakleds had discovered the crash site and deployed search parties to hunt him down. Leading the charge was Janus, the Pakled's cruel and cunning leader. Janus had a deep-seated hatred for humans, seeing them as little more than violent savages. He had ordered his top subordinate, Kovar, to capture the surviving human at any cost. But Terry was no ordinary soldier. He was a skilled survivalist and combat medic, trained to operate behind enemy lines. Using the dense jungle to his advantage, Terry had managed to evade capture for 3 days, scavenging what supplies he could from the wreckage and using his survival skills to stay one step ahead of the Pakleds. But now, with the scanner drones closing in and his body pushed to its limits, Terry knew he couldn't run forever. He gripped his sidearm tightly, checking the ammo count. Only 3 rounds left. 3 chances to show the Pakleds what humans were truly capable of. 3 shots to turn the hunters into the hunted. Terry took a deep breath, steeling himself for the fight to come. The Pakleds thought they had the upper hand, but they had no idea who they were messing with. They were about to learn the hard way just how deadly humans could be. As the scanner drones drew closer, Terry checked the splint on his shattered arm one last time. Then, with a savage battle cry on his lips, he charged out from behind the tree, ready to show the Pakleds the true meaning of humanity. Fuck yeah. As darkness descended upon the bioluminescent jungle of Gozkov, Terry emerged from his makeshift shelter, a small cave hidden behind a curtain of vines. His stomach growled with hunger, and his throat was parched. He knew he had to find sustenance if he hoped to survive long enough for a rescue. Terry crept through the undergrowth, his senses on high alert. The alien jungle was a symphony of strange sounds and scents, but Terry's keen instincts, sharpened by years of military training, cut through the noise. Suddenly, he froze. There in the shadows, a pair of eyes glinted in the moonlight. A small bipedal creature was watching him, its body tense and ready to flee. In a blur of motion, Terry drew his sidearm and fired a warning shot into the air. The creature let out a terrified squeal and scurried away, disappearing into the foliage. Terry listened as the sound of its retreat faded into the night, his heart pounding in his chest. Unbeknownst to Terry, the creature was no mere animal. It was Zim, a Pakled scout tasked by Kovar to track the human's movements. Zim raced through the jungle, his mind reeling from the encounter. The human had moved with such speed, such precision, and the weapon, it had made a sound like thunder, a sound that echoed in Zim's ears long after the human was out of sight. Zim burst into the Pakled encampment, his chest heaving with exertion. Kovar was waiting for him, his face a mask of impatience. "Report!" he barked, his eyes narrowing as he took in Zim's disheveled appearance. "The human," Zim gasped. "He is fast, faster than anything I have ever seen, and his weapon, it is loud, louder than the roar of a Gozk beast." Back in the jungle, Terry had located a small stream, its water clear and cool. He drank deeply, savoring the taste of life on his tongue. As he filled his canteen, he noticed a set of small tracks in the soft mud of the bank. A plan began to form in his mind. Using the skills he had learned in survival training, Terry set a series of snares along the game trails that crisscrossed the jungle floor. As he worked, he couldn't help but think of the distress beacon on his ship. If it had been activated before the crash, there was a chance that a rescue team might already be on its way. At the Pakled encampment, Kovar relayed Zim's report to Janice. The Pakled leader's face was a mask of cold calculation as he listened to the scout's account of the human's capabilities. "We must capture him quickly," Kovar urged, "before he can cause further damage." But Janus held up a hand, silencing his subordinate. "No," he said, a cruel smile playing at the corners of his mouth. "This human is different. He is resourceful, determined. We must be clever if we are to bring him to heel." Janus stood, his eyes glinting with malice. "Deploy the holographic decoys," he ordered, "and let us see just how clever this human truly is." As Terry settled into his makeshift bed of leaves and moss, his thoughts turned to his family back on Earth. He pictured his wife's face, the way her eyes crinkled when she smiled. He thought of his son, so small and full of life. They were his reason for fighting, his reason for surviving. But even as he drifted off to sleep, Terry was unaware of the trap that was being laid for him. The Pakleds were coming, and they would stop at nothing to see the human brought to his knees. As the first rays of Gozgfo's twin suns pierced through the dense jungle canopy, Terry stirred from his slumber, his senses immediately on high alert. The sound of rustling foliage and the hum of machinery nearby sent a surge of adrenaline coursing through his veins. Cautiously, he crept towards the source of the disturbance, his heart pounding in his chest as he parted the vines obscuring his view. There, in a small clearing just ahead, stood a sight that made Terry's breath catch in his throat. A human rescue team, complete with a sleek, hovering transport vehicle and uniformed personnel, had seemingly materialized out of nowhere. A wave of relief washed over him, and he stumbled forward, his exhausted body fueled by a sudden burst of hope. "Hey!" he called out, waving his uninjured arm to get their attention. "Over here!" But as he took another step, the ground beneath his feet suddenly gave way, and he found himself enveloped in a shimmering energy net. Pain lanced through his body as the net constricted around him, his muscles seizing and his vision blurring. He struggled against the bonds, but the more he fought, the tighter they seemed to become. Through the haze of agony, Terry watched in horror as the rescue team before him flickered and faded, revealing itself to be nothing more than a sophisticated hologram. In their place, Kovar and a dozen heavily armed Pakled soldiers emerged from the jungle, their weapons trained on the immobilized human. "Did you really think we would make it that easy for you?" Kovar sneered, his eyes glinting with malice. Terry gritted his teeth, his mind racing as he searched for a way out of his predicament. Suddenly, he remembered the hidden failsafe built into his suit, a last-resort EMP burst designed to disable nearby electronic devices. With a grunt of effort, he activated the mechanism and a pulse of energy erupted from his body, shorting out the energy net and causing the Pakled's weapons to spark and fizzle. In the ensuing chaos, Terry wrenched himself free of the now inert net and bolted into the jungle, ignoring the searing pain in his injured arm as he pushed himself to run faster than he ever had before. Behind him, he could hear Kovar bellowing orders to his soldiers, their heavy footfalls and angry shouts drawing ever closer. At his command center, Janus watched the scene unfold on a series of holographic displays, his expression a mixture of frustration and begrudging respect. The human had proven far more resourceful than he had anticipated, and the Pakled leader found himself intrigued by the challenge this lone soldier presented. "Kovar," he barked into his comm unit, "I want that human captured alive. Do not underestimate him again." As Terry raced through the undergrowth, his lungs burning and his heart hammering in his chest, he stumbled upon a sight that made him skid to a halt. Before him, half hidden by the dense foliage, stood the crumbling remains of an ancient Pakled structure, its walls overgrown with vines and its foundation half buried in the earth. Desperate for a place to catch his breath and regroup, Terry plunged into the ruins, unaware that the secrets hidden within its decaying walls would soon change the course of his fate on Gosgafol. As Terry ventured deeper into the ancient Pakled ruins, the air grew thick with the musty smell of decay. Vines snaked across the crumbling walls, their tendrils pulsing with an otherworldly bioluminescence. Terry's heart pounded in his chest as he navigated the narrow corridors, his senses on high alert for any sign of danger. Suddenly he found himself in a vast chamber, its walls lined with advanced Pakled technology that far surpassed anything he had ever seen. Consoles flashed with alien glyphs, and holographic displays flickered to life as he approached. But it was the cylindrical device at the center of the room that caught Terry's eye. The device was covered in intricate glyphs, pulsing with an eerie blue light. As Terry reached out to examine it, a holographic projection of a Pakled materialized before him. The figure introduced himself as Vek, the long-dead architect of the ruins. "Human," Vek's voice echoed through the chamber. "You hold in your hands a weapon of unimaginable power, the Stellar Annihilator, capable of harnessing the energy of stars and unleashing it upon entire worlds." Terry's eyes widened as Vek explained the device's origins. The Pakleds had once sought to use the weapon to conquer the galaxy, but its unstable nature had forced them to abandon the project. Now, Terry realized, the device could be his key to survival. But as Terry turned to leave the chamber, he found himself face to face with Kovar and his soldiers. They had tracked him to the ruins, and now they stood between him and freedom. "Hand over the device, human," Kovar snarled, his weapon trained on Terry's chest. Terry's grip tightened on the Stellar Annihilator. He knew he couldn't let the Pakleds get their hands on such a powerful weapon. With a roar of defiance, he charged forward, using his combat skills to weave through the hail of blaster fire. The battle was fierce, with Terry using the ancient Pakled weapon to hold off the attacking forces. Energy bolts ricocheted off the stone walls, sending showers of sparks cascading to the ground. Terry ducked and dodged, his movements a blur of speed and precision. But in the midst of the chaos, the Stellar Annihilator began to overload. Its unstable energy core pulsed with an ominous light, threatening to detonate and destroy everything in its vicinity. Terry knew he had to act fast. With a desperate heave, he hurled the device towards the Pakled soldiers. The cylindrical weapon arced through the air, its glyphs flashing with an angry red light. Terry dove behind a stone pillar just as the device hit the ground and exploded. The resulting blast was like nothing Terry had ever seen. A blinding flash of light filled the chamber, followed by a shockwave that sent Pakled soldiers flying like ragdolls. The ancient stone walls cracked and crumbled, raining debris down upon the battlefield. When the dust settled, only Kovar and a handful of his soldiers remained. Terry, seizing the opportunity, made a daring escape. He raced through the ruins, his heart pounding in his chest as he disappeared into the jungle once more. But Janus, upon learning of the incident, became consumed with a new obsession. He mobilized every resource at his disposal to hunt down the human, determined to unlock the secrets of the ancient Pakled technology. Terry had escaped, but he knew his fight was far from over. The Pakleds would stop at nothing to capture him, and he would have to use every skill in his arsenal to stay one step ahead. Terry raced through the dense jungle, his heart pounding in his chest, as he put as much distance as he could between himself and the ruins where he had narrowly escaped the Pakleds. His mind reeled with the implications of what he had discovered, an ancient Pakled weapon of unimaginable power, now lost forever in the rubble of the ruins. As he pushed through the thick undergrowth, Terry suddenly stumbled upon a small clearing. There, nestled among the towering trees, stood a hidden Pakled communications outpost. The structure was small and unassuming, but Terry recognized the telltale signs of advanced technology. Without hesitation, Terry crept towards the outpost, his senses on high alert. He knew that infiltrating the facility could be his only chance at contacting human forces and securing an evacuation from this hostile world. Using his skills as a trained soldier, Terry managed to slip past the outpost security systems and make his way inside. The interior was dimly lit and filled with the hum of machinery, but Terry quickly located the communications array. With trembling fingers, he input the codes for an emergency distress signal, his heart racing as he waited for a response. Moments later, a confirmation appeared on the screen. His message had been sent, and help was on the way. But Terry's relief was short-lived. Alarms suddenly blared throughout the outpost, and the sound of heavy footsteps echoed from the corridors. Terry cursed under his breath. His signal had been intercepted by the Pakleds, and they were coming for him. Terry braced himself as the doors to the communications room burst open, revealing a heavily armed strike team led by none other than Janus himself. The Pakled leader's face was twisted with rage and determination, his eyes locked onto Terry with a predatory intensity. "Surrender, human," Janus snarled, his weapon aimed squarely at Terry's chest. "You have nowhere to run." But Terry was not about to give up without a fight. With lightning speed, he drew his own weapon and opened fire, sending the Pakled soldiers diving for cover. The room erupted into chaos as Terry fought off wave after wave of attackers, using every ounce of his training and ingenuity to stay alive. The stolen Pakled technology from the ruins proved invaluable, its advanced capabilities evening the odds against the overwhelming numbers of Janus's forces. Terry ducked and weaved through the outpost, engaging in a deadly game of cat and mouse with the Pakleds. Just as it seemed that Terry would be overwhelmed, a deafening roar filled the air. Outside, a human dropship hovered above the outpost, its weapons trained on the Pakled forces. Terry's heart soared as he recognized the voice of his old friend, Captain Jake Hawkins, crackling over the dropship's loudspeakers. "Terry, this is Hawkins. We received your distress call. Hold tight, we're coming in hot." The dropship unleashed a barrage of fire upon the Pakled soldiers, forcing them to retreat. Terry seized the opportunity, sprinting towards the extraction point as the dropship descended to the ground. In the chaos of the firefight, Terry realized that he still carried the ancient Pakled device. Knowing that he couldn't risk it falling into enemy hands, he tossed it back towards the outpost just as he leapt aboard the dropship. As the vessel lifted off, Terry watched through the viewport as the device detonated, consuming the outpost in a blinding flash of light. The secrets of the ancient Pakled technology were lost forever, but Terry was alive and on his way back to human space. On the journey home, Terry learned the terrible truth. The Pakleds had declared war on humanity, using the incident on Goskwar as a pretext for their aggression. As the dropship docked with a massive human battlecruiser, Terry was greeted by the grim faces of his superiors. "Corporal Turner," a grizzled admiral said, his voice heavy with the weight of the news he bore. "The Pakleds have launched a full-scale invasion of human territory. We're at war." Terry felt a chill run down his spine as the reality of the situation sank in. He had survived the horrors of Goskov, but his actions had unwittingly sparked a galactic conflict. The survival of humanity now rested on the shoulders of soldiers like himself, who would have to face the wrath of the Pakleds head-on. As Terry stepped off the dropship and onto the battlecruiser's deck, he steeled himself for the battles to come. The war with the Pakleds had begun, and he knew that the fight for humanity's future would be long and bloody. But with the memory of his fallen comrades and the knowledge of what he had endured on Goskfor burning in his heart, Terry was ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.